Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Today, we're going to be talking about digital art. All right, so what we're going to be covering, we're going to talk about what digital art is, what that means when I say it. We're going to be talking about devices that are appropriate to use for digital art that we can use, that we have at our disposal. And then we're going to be talking about some of the apps that make this possible. So some of the programs on our device that we can use to do this, look at some tips and examples, and then we'll do a live demonstration of how you can create your own digital art. So what is digital art? So digital art is artwork made using digital technology rather than traditional means. So pens, paper, canvases. We do it all on devices. And digital art can be made on computers, tablets, smartphones, and other electronic devices. So really any device that you may have at your disposal, you can use to make digital art. And then digital art can be easily shared with others because it does exist on our devices. We can share it like we share anything else on our tablet or phone, how we share photos, just like that. So it is accessible to everyone and we can pass it along to anyone we'd like. Now, what are the pros and cons of digital art? So the pros is it's much easier to do things like erase and remove elements of our artwork. So we have more flexibility in that. If we, make a wrong brush stroke, it's not a big deal. We can just tap undo or erase it and start again. It's environmentally friendly, so there's no paper or other materials required. And that being said, it also can be less costly, right? If we're not buying material to create our art, canvases, paint, paper, whatever it is that our chosen model of making art is, we don't have those factors. So we can make everything digitally and there's no cost for material except for sometimes the program we use. But today we're going to be covering only free programs, of which there are many. And programs have a wide range of artistic features. A lot of them also include demos and instructional. So you can also kind of sometimes learn as you go as well. Now, the cons of digital art are that devices or programs used to make digital art can be expensive. As I said, a lot of them are free, and we're only going to be touching on free ones today. But if you, really get into it and want to get into being able to do more things, that can come at a cost. And when we're talking about devices to use it to make digital art with, you can make digital art with any device. However, there are certain devices that might be better suited for it, and those may be more expensive. But you really can do it with, just the basic tablet or phone you may have at your disposal. And also, it may not have the same feel as traditional art making, right? We're not putting pen to paper here or paintbrush to canvas, so it might feel different. And that may be, a downside for some people. And there is a bit of a learning curve in terms of navigating the programs that we're using to make this art, figuring out what things do and just how to use them generally. Now, devices for drawing. There are many types of drawing devices you can use, and digital pencils can also be used on devices that have touch screens. You can really use any tablet you have. As you can see in this photo, this is kind of a more high-end digital art dedicated tablet we're looking at, but I'm going to show you today using just my Android tablet, and that can be done pretty easily as well. So devices for drawing, really the best things are going to be any device that has a touch screen that you can use to make art with. So that might mean a tablet, it might mean a computer with a touch screen or a phone. Obviously, bigger screens might be easiest, so tablets might be your best bet when it comes to making digital art, but you can definitely also do it on a phone. Now, drawing pencils, this is another tool that can be implemented to make digital art because it can make it a bit easier, right? Sometimes our finger on the touch screen is not the most specific tool or most accurate tool. And so you can employ the use of something like a stylus to make making digital art easier. You can buy them online. You can get them for relatively cheap, as you can see here. $4 or $5 to $15. There's some that are like super expensive. I'm not sure why, but we can get really, really cheap ones at Walmart or Staples or Best Buy or anything like that. And you can also make your own, kind of. Basically, if you just take any sort of pencil and put some tin foil and the end of a Q-tip on it and wet it a bit, you can make your own stylus. There's like videos on how to do that online. So you can kind of makeshift one out of an existing pencil that might have a comfortable grip for you that you prefer to use. But they are accessible at any of these stores. They're really a kind of a one-time purchase, and you don't have to, buy them when they run out of ink or anything like you would an actual pen or pencil. So, what are the apps that we can use for making this digital art? Now, today we're focusing specifically on drawing, painting using digital platforms. There are a number of other things that we can do. Photoshop. We can edit photos or make sort of graphic designs. But today we're going to be focusing on the more traditional drawing, painting, and how we can do this in a digital format. So digital art apps. There are many types of digital art apps which you can use, and there are free digital art apps as well as paid apps for those who prefer those more tools or accessibility. And if it's something that you really get into and want to make a small investment in, you can buy one of these apps. Some of them are not particularly expensive, but they do give you a bit more access. But one of the most popular apps for drawing, especially for beginners, is Ibis Paint, which can be found on both the Apple as well as the Android app store. And it is a app that is free that can be used on either device. Other apps that do exist that are out there, though, that do offer free ones, and these are for iOS devices. So we have Adobe Fresco, Charcoal, Linea Sketch, Penbook, Ink, Credible, Bamboo Paper, and there are more. But if you want these for reference, so you know which ones we recommend that we can guarantee are reliable and safe to use for an iOS device, so that's an Apple device, an iPad, or an iPhone. These are the ones we recommend. And then when it comes to Android devices, here are the most popular ones that we recommend. Once again, Artflow, Adobe Illustrator Draw, Adobe Photoshop Sketch, Paper Color, and Ibis Paint X. And that's going to be the app we're actually going to be looking at in our live demonstration. But there are others. Krita is another free one. It's a bit more advanced, so may not be the one you start with, but it is a free software as well. It's really great. It's consistently one of those top ranked ones. So Krita is another option available on either Android or iPhone, iPad. Autodesk Sketchbook, and again, Ibis Paint X. So we're going to be looking at the interface of how this app looks. It's going to look different on my device, and it's going to look different on your device, but just so you can get a general sense of if you're going to be using these, what do they look like? So this is an example of the Adobe Fresco free app. You have this blank white screen, this blank white canvas. You can do things like change the background color of this canvas. So you don't have to start on a white background. You can start on a beige or pink or green background, whatever you'd like. And then you'll see that all of your tools for drawing are over here on the left. Now, the one thing with these apps where there is a learning curve is there's not always labels on every single feature. So you do kind of have to get the hang of understand what they do. The more you use it, the more you have an understanding of what some of these icons or symbols mean. So this top one is just a regular pen tool or brush tool that we can use. This one with water is more, I think, watercolor. Then you get down to eraser. This little finger is a smudging tool. There's a paint can tool, right? So there are things that you kind of play around with, you get used to, you'll understand what those mean, and then you can figure it out. But there is definitely a learning curve. It's not just as simple as, picking up a pencil and drawing. But I suppose when we all learn to use pencils, or if you've done art in the past and learned to use a paintbrush, there was a learning curve there too. There is here. We're learning to work with new tools, so we have to familiarize ourselves. You can do things though in here, like change the brush color, the size, the texture. You can also change the opacity, so you can recreate things that you would do in real art, like pushing your pencil into the paper harder to make it darker, or making it lighter to make it less dark. We can do that by changing the color or opacity of our brush stroke. You can also add images. You can use like rulers on your screen as well. And you can use the back and forth arrow over here at the top to redo and undo things we've done. So if you make a mistake, you can just go back a step. And then you can also, like we said, share these things. So you can go into your settings, you can save it to your device's gallery, so your photo app. You can share it with friends. And there's also going to be a lot of tools on here to help you navigate the app. So they do tend to come with a lot of tours or little tutorials you can do. So that is a helpful factor there as well. Now, something to say for beginners who are getting used to it, if you are not sure and you're struggling to get started, don't get discouraged. There is great ways to continue to learn to use these apps. Again, I'm going to show you today. I admittedly am not the best digital artist, though, so I will take us through the basics of how these apps function and how we can start drawing on them. But there are great videos online of people who make this kind of art. So you can do research, watch YouTube videos about the specific app you want to use and how to use it, um, and experiment. But those videos online are really helpful. They can really show you different techniques that you might want to engage in. You can see how people who are really experienced in using these programs do it, and you can take tips from there. So right here, there's an example, a quick tutorial for beginners. So you can find those videos on YouTube. Simply search for the application you want to use. So whether it's Ibis Paint X or something else, tutorial, and you should be able to find some videos to help walk you through that in terms of the actual creation of the art. And the other thing about these apps is that you can see other people's arts on them. So, as you're making it, you can see what kind of other art people are making on these applications. These are three examples of some art made on applications, just like the one we're going to be looking at today. Obviously, very advanced, not my level of artistry, um, but this is what's really possible with these apps. We can do exactly what we can do on a canvas on digital art platforms. So if you're someone who has painted or made art in the past, but maybe don't do it as much, whether it's due to accessibility or time, this is a great way to get back into it and be able to make art on the cheap and on the go. So as I said, we're going to be doing a live demonstration. So I'm going to be showing you how to use the Ibis Paint X app. So here we are on my device. So as I said, we can download a lot of these apps from the App Store that we have on our given device. So we can go to the App Store to download any of these apps. So the Google Play Store is what I'm using on this device. And we can search for drawing apps, specific apps, right? So I had earlier searched for Ibis Paint. We can use this one. There it is. That's what it looks like in the App Store. This is the icon you'll see when you're downloading it. But there are other ones out there. Krita is another one we can use on here. So we can just search that up and then we can find it. The Krita app here is what it looks like. So you're looking at it. You can use it there and install that one. And you just install it by clicking that install button at the top. Once you do, it should download onto your device and then you can begin using it. Once it's downloaded, it will appear on your home screen. So here's the app right now. And then once it's downloaded, you can just click into it and use it. We're going to be using this app though, Ibis Paint app. So we'll open this up. Now, when you open up this app, this is what you'll see. You're holding it. So it's a pretty simple looking app. It's not the fanciest looking app when you open it and start using it. And so sometimes some of the buttons I find a bit small, but it's great. So what we have here is we have My Gallery. So this is going to be all of the art you created. You can also see collections, so you can just make your own collections. And you can see online galleries. So that's where you can see other people's art that are using the app to create things. And you can see at the bottom, they show these daily rankings of people's art in the app. So again, if you're curious, want to feel inspired, you can click on any of those to check out what people are making on this app. But to get started for yourself, to start making something, you're going to want to click on My Gallery. Once you click on my gallery, it will take you here. As you can see, I already have one little piece of art in here. If you haven't made anything yet, you won't have anything. You can already tell by this little thumbnail how bad I am. But say I had previous arts, I could always click into any of them and I can look at them. So that was my art that I created before. But if I wanted to create new art, I'm gonna have to click this little plus button down here in the bottom. It's kind of small here. It might be a bit tough to see, but you can see there's a tiny little plus button down in the corner. That is how you're going to create new canvases. Plus button. And when you do, it pops up this sort of little screen on the side. And what we have here is all of our options for our canvas. There's a lot to choose from here. So you can choose things like how wide it is. So right now we kind of have a square canvas, but we can adjust these things to change the relative size of our canvas. These numbers are all in kind of digital pixel numbers. So you may not be familiar with what that size means. So do feel free to play around with it to figure out what size you want. For those are the ratios you'll see of width to height on your canvas. And then you can do all of these other things and pick printing stuff. For the most part, you can just click plus and then scroll down to the bottom of this and click OK. Once you do that, your canvas will appear here. Here's my canvas. It's just this white little page I have. And what I can do is, first of all, in terms of seeing my canvas, I can always use my fingers much like I would when I'm looking at a photo or taking a photo to zoom in and out. And you can use your fingers to sort of move this around. So if you want to see a full view or you ever want to zoom in on a particular area, you can use that sort of in and out this sort of moment with your fingers to zoom in and out on your canvas. We'll start by choosing our brush. So right here down at the bottom, you have some of your options for choosing your brush style and all of that. So right here, that brush, that is how you're going to choose the tool you want to use, right? So right now I am in my brush, but we also have things like an eraser, blur tool, a bucket tool, which will fill in any enclosed space with a color of your choosing. You can use text. You can use the eyedropper tool to select a type of color, to choose your color. Again, these things may not be things that you're already familiar with because you may not use a lot of digital art platforms, but definitely something to play around with. But at the very basic stage, you're going to choose a brush. You're going to click on brush and it will give you options about the kind of brush you want to use. Now, most of these brushes you can use just regularly. You'll see there are a few here that say add. So because this is a free app, they do sometimes show you ads in order to make them money. And so there's certain brushes you'll see on here that you can use, but you just have to watch an ad first. But it's only 2 of them. Every other single one you can pretty much use easily. So we're going to choose just the first one, the dip soft pen. It's the most basic one we can use. Once we choose that, we also have then the ability to choose the thickness of and opacity of this paintbrush. Now this we can change throughout. We don't have to make this choice and keep it, but we can use this to change this and we can see how thick this is going to be. So as we're making these changes, this is actually a really nice feature. As I'm adjusting here, you'll see that the line on the screen there is changing just ever so slightly. So as I adjust the thickness, the example over here on the left is kind of changing how it looks. So we can start to see what that brush stroke might look like as we adjust these things. So thickness the start, thickness the end, right? So if you want a line that when you end it, it has a really thick end, the same thickness as the rest of it, or you want to kind of a fading end here, we can make those adjustments. We can also change the overall brush stroke. So how you'd have, multiple different brushes for different thicknesses, you can just adjust this to adjust how thin or thick that brush stroke is. And then lastly, we have our opacity, which changes how dark it is. You won't necessarily see it on here, but Basically, what that means is it just makes it more see-through. So if you want it to appear more like it's a watercolor, in that sense that you have, the bit of that see-throughness effect to it, that is going to be your opacity. So that's going to be the brush I choose. I'll leave it at that. This little square, this is where you select your color. So you click on this, and then you get your color wheel, and you can use this circle to adjust the color itself, primary color, and then you can use this inner circle to edit how dark or light it is. So you can see I'm changing the color of my brush here. So say I want to use like this kind of bluish gray color. Now I have a brush, and I can start drawing on this page, right? So maybe I want to draw a tree. Again, I'm very, very bad at this. You can get better at this. This is also why using something like a stylus can be really helpful, because my finger's not the most specific. But we can, use this to start making our art. Now, what we can continue to do from here is then adjust. So I say this is the outline I want to make, but I now want to start filling it in with color. I can come back to my brush here, and I can select a new brush, so I can maybe use the same one or a different one. Say I want to just change the thickness of this and the opacity, and then maybe I want to change the color of it. So maybe I want to start making, the actual green, and I choose size, and then I can start filling this in. If that's not big enough, I can just click undo up here and keep going. So then I can start drawing like this and continuing to maybe adjust this size to fit in. And again, changing the opacity makes it thicker or lighter on your screen. And we work like that. So at the most basic, we have our brush, but again, we also have things like a blur tool, which might allow us to sort of blur things out. You can sort of see, it kind of lets you move things around. We also have a bucket tool, so we can use it generally if there's any sort of enclosed area to paint into something, which is sort of nice. We have a text tool, so you can always write and add text onto your canvas as well. And any of these sort of tools. And we'll start to figure out and stuff how to use it. This eyedropper tool can be quite helpful because we can select a color. Say we were using a certain color, we went on to something else, we want to go back to that color. We can use it to reselect the color we were using. And yeah, there's a lot of other tools on here too. So for example, in this top right corner, there's this little picture, and we can click on that to choose preset things we might want to use. So if we want to use tracing sketches, so something to help us draw, say I wanted to insert a building into here, I can use this, and I can insert this in here. So we can use other elements that are beyond us to start adding things to our drawing, and that comes in up here. There are a lot of things to do on here. We can also use this second one up here in the top right corner, right next to the one we just clicked on. This is a ruler. We can use this to add a ruler to our screen too. So if we want to get more specific or be able to draw better circles or match anything, we have all of these types of ruler, straight rulers, radial rulers that we can use to make our drawing experience a bit easier and all that. But say you are done with making your art. So say you're done, you want to save it. What you can do now is click on this little back arrow in the bottom right corner. And what you'll be able to do from here is this menu will pop up when you do it. And you can then save this to your photo. So say I wanted to save this to my photo album, that will save it directly to your device's gallery, so your photo album. And then you can share that with anyone you'd like. But you can also just click back to my gallery. And as you go back, you'll see now that this is here along with my other art from before, and I can come look at them. At any point, I can open one up too, and I can click edit. Just wanted to make sure that was right. So say I just wanted to leave this for now, I'd go back out of it. Anytime I want, I can come back into my app. So I open my app I go to my gallery, I find the drawing I was working on, so this one. I can then click down here where it says edit, and this will bring me back into my canvas and I can continue to work on it. That's pretty much how this works. As I said, there's a lot of tools in here to get used to. I don't do this a ton, but there's ways in which we can continue to edit, work with this, and make it how we'd like, make our adjustments, our grid settings, all here. Something to play around with, start working with. Again, it's a learning curve when we're coming to digital art because it is not something that we may be as familiar with, but this is a great tool to use if you have previously made art or want to get into it, and maybe don't want to have to go out and buy a bunch of paint and canvases and paper. It's free. You can do this easily on the go, and then you can share your creations with a touch of a button just on your device. You can always call us toll free at Cyber Seniors at 844-217-3057, or you can visit us online at www.cyberseniors.org. I hope you enjoyed this, and we hope to see you back soon with any other tech questions you might have.